good morning. How are you? My name is Jeff. I'm so glad you could be with me today. Before we get started, I want to point something out here. If you see me looking down a lot today, down here, that's because I'm using my iPad for my notes. Usually I have them taped right underneath the camera so I can just sort of glance down a little, but I got a feeling I'm going to be glancing down a lot today because I don't have the brain to memorize all this stuff. I'm an old man, you know. Anyway, so today we go back into the world of Bert I. Gordon. We've already done King Dinosaur and the Amazing Colossal Man, so I really don't think I have to talk a lot about the man. If you want to know more about him, see those 2 episodes. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on September 14th, 1991. It was the 1958 American science fiction film Earth vs. the Spider, produced and directed by Bert I. Gordon, and starring Ed Kemmer, Kenney, Eugene Persson, and many other wonderful people. This was the episode in which we opened with the bots doing a talk show called Inside the Robot Mind. TV's Frank invents a cheese phone in which Joel claims is stolen from one of his ideas, while Joel creates a CD playing hairdryer. Crow writes a play called Earth vs. Soup in which Joel and the bots help him by doing a reading. Later, the gang forms a rock band called Spydor, but Mike, as a custodian, appears on the view screen and has a problem with it. Near the end, they talk about dangerous toys of the past, many including incredible edibles I had as a child. And finally, Tom writes and reads a report that focuses on Bert I. Gordon's common themes. For those new to the show, while I'm talking about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000, I'm more talking about the film itself and not so much about Joel and the Bots' treatment of the film, though there'll be a little of that at the end. Bullets won't kill it. Flames can't burn it. Nothing can stop it. The spider will eat you alive. Now, if I hadn't seen this film before, I would still assume that something can kill the spider because, the film's gotta end, right? Anyway, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this one, but I don't think the title, Earth vs. the Spider, is all that accurate. It's more like a couple of people from a small California town versus the spider. Anyway, so 1957 and 1958 were big years for Bert I. Gordon. In 57, he made The Cyclops, The Amazing Colossal Man, and The Beginning of the End. And in 58, there was War of the Colossal Beast, Attack of the Puppet People, and this one. 6 classic B films in 2 years. Way to go, Bert. And I should point out that a couple of years before this, Universal Pictures had a movie called Tarantula, which starred the beautiful Amara Corday, and I'm sure this had no influence on Bert I. Gordon whatsoever. This was totally an original idea, but it is hard to think of one film without thinking of the other. Now, there's a reason why during the titles of this film, it's called Earth vs. the Spider, but on the posters, it just says The Spider. And that's because during post-production, the Vincent Price film, The Fly, came out, and that was such a huge success that the people at AIP wanted to capitalize on that, so they changed the title to The Spider. And I don't know if it helped or not, but that was their idea. Gordon's films, yes, they're easy to poke fun at, and everybody does, but I believe that he made the type of films that he was trying to make, right? Simple, drive-in entertainment. This and The Colossal Man were probably his 2 most successful in that regard. And I tell you, I really enjoy this film. I enjoy it a lot, but I enjoy all these cheesy 50s science fiction films. Now, the story for this film was conceived by Gordon himself, and he, with the help of his wife Flora, did all the special effects. The thing about the effects created by this couple is, well, they were never very good. But actually, compared to The Amazing Colossal Man, the effects in this one are okay. In Colossal Man, the matte lines are very thick and noticeable, and there are times when the lighter parts of Glenn Manning become transparent. When you watch the spider in this film, it's not great, but hey, it's better. The original screenplay was written by Laszlo Gorag, with additional dialogue by George Worthing Yates. In the final credits, both Gorag and Yates are credited as writers. Laszlo Gorag lived from 1903 to 1997. He wrote a handful of screenplays in the 40s, but by the 50s was doing mostly TV work. A few films he wrote during that period were The Mole People from 56 and The Land Unknown from 57. George Worthing Yates lived from 1910 to 1975. He started out writing film serials in the late 30s and 40s. In the 50s, however, he penned quite a few classic B films, including Them from 54, It Came from Beneath the Sea in 55, The Amazing Colossal Man from 57, Attack of the Puppet People, Flame Barrier, Frankenstein 1970, Space Master X7, and War of the Colossal Beast, all from 58, and then Tormented from 1960. You can see he worked a lot with Bert I. Gordon. The exterior cave scenes were filmed at, of course, Bronson Caverns, but the interior cave shots were accomplished by taking pictures of the Carlsbad Caverns National Park in New Mexico and using those for backdrops behind the actors or cutouts in front of the actors, similar to how Bert I. Gordon did the Vegas scenes in The Amazing Colossal Man. Let's look at our characters. First, we have 25-year-old Jean Kenney, who plays teenager Carol Flynn. She was born June Claire Kenney and lived from 1933 to 2021. June was an American actress who jumped back and forth between television and B films. Some of her films include Teenage Doll from 57, Sorority Girl from 57, The Saga of the Viking Women and Their Voyage to the Waters of the Great Sea Serpent in 57, Attack of the Puppet People in 58, Hot Car Girl in 58, and Bloodlust in 1961. Jay Sawyer, who worked with June a few times, said in his interview with B-film historian Tom Weaver, "She's about as un-Hollywood as you can get. She was very little, a tiny thing, diminutive, and just very sweet, very easy to work with, and a nice girl. You'd never guess that she was an actress." And I tell you, she's the best part of this film, and I think she should have had a better career. She commented in one interview that because early on she worked with Roger Corman, she was labeled a B-movie actress and found it very hard to break out of that. She retired from acting in 1962. 24-year-old Eugene Persson plays teenager Mike Simpson. He was born Eugene Claire Persson and lived from 1934 to 2008. He started out as a child actor on radio, television, and films. After serving in the United States military during the Korean War, he appeared in B films, including Paramount Pictures' The Party Crashers in 58 and Bloodlust in 1961. Bloodlust was his last film before he became a producer. His most famous production was the musical You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown in 1967, and then the TV special based on the same story in 73. Now, I poke fun at the fact that these two were a bit old to play teenagers, but they look young enough so they can pass. But I have to point out this guy. This is Joe, played by Troy Patterson. If he's a high school kid, he was held back for many years. He was 35 years old at the time. Ed Kemmer plays teacher Mr. Kingman. Ed lived from 1921 to 2004. Before being an actor, he was a fighter pilot in the United States Army Air Force during World War II and served 11 months in a POW camp. His most famous role was that in the live television science fiction action drama Space Patrol from 1951 to 1956. He was another mostly TV actor who did the occasional B film, such as Panama Sal in 1957, Giant from the Unknown, Hong Kong Confidential, and The Hot Angel, all from 1958. Sally Frazier plays Mrs. Helen Kingman, the teacher's wife. She lived from 1932 to 2019, and I talked about her a lot on my last episode, It Conquered the World. If you want to know more about her, watch that one. The constantly laughing Sheriff Cagle is played by Gene Roth. Gene lived from 1903 to 1976 and was a theater manager who became an actor. Some of his films include Zombies of Moro Tau from 57, She-Demons from 58, The Rebel Set from 59, Attack of the Giant Leeches from 59, and Tormented from 1960. And the last actor I'll talk about is Hank Patterson, who plays the janitor. You might remember him as Mr. Ziffel from Green Acres. See Elp 1960? I caught that one. Anyway, what is Earth versus the Spider? Right away we start out with action. A man who has a present for his daughter is driving an old pickup at night. Something whips across his face, somehow getting by the windshield. We can assume he was the first victim of the spider, right? Cut to a small town out west, and we meet Carol, the daughter of the man we just saw die, And she's worried because, well, her father didn't make it home last night. The thing is, as her boyfriend Mike reminds her, he has a drinking problem and things like this happen.
So what? You know it doesn't mean a thing. I mean, you know how he is.
What do you mean I know how he is?
It might be true, but it still gets her mad. But later in class, they make up by passing notes to each other, and he agrees to borrow Joe's car so they can look for the missing man.
He promised he'd be back. I know something's happened to him.
Sure it did. Maybe he ran out of gas. He'd never meet anybody on this road.
I love the stillness of the car while they're driving. Bert, you could have had a few extras rock that car a little, right? But what they find is what appears to be a rope covered with a strange sticky substance. And then Carol finds the present from her father, and that leads him to the remains of his truck. Things aren't looking good for Carol's father. And from there they spot the only place her father could have gone, a cave. Hey, in movies, when does ignoring signs like this ever lead to something good? I've got the answer, never.
Dad! Dad! Dad!
Wow, that was close. Carol, inside voice, please.
Oh, Mike. Mike,
I have a question about human skeletons in films such as this. Would they really stay together like that, looking all human and scary? I think without muscles and cartilage and whatnot, they would just fall into a pile of bones. I could be wrong. The kids fall into a web. Uh-oh, scary music. Mr. Spider must be on the way.
Mike, what is it?
The kids escape, and let me tell you, if you had been watching this when you were 8 years old, it probably would have been pretty scary. Cut to them trying to convince their parents and a teacher who happens to be hanging out at their house of what just happened.
But we saw it.
Believe me, my son is not in the habit of lying, Mrs. Kingman.
That isn't what Helen meant. Whether we believe their story or not, the man to see about it is the sheriff.
Yes, it was important to call this guy, a guy who laughs over a game of checkers. Maybe he's an expert arachnologist, I don't know. But maybe they called him so he can arrest the spider.
Well, you know these teenagers as well as I do, Mr. Kingman. Yeah, what will they pull next, huh?
Yes, of course. Teenagers are always making up stories about giant spiders.
Spiders? I told them to bring me one, and I'd believe it.
I can't say I blame you, Sheriff.
Well, I'll need those 2 kids with us to point things out. And if you want to come along, too, that's fine. Oh, don't you worry. We'll bring rifles in case we run into that spider.
And so, with the DDT ready, they head down into the cave. Of course, they bring the 2 high school kids with them. Now, there's a lot of walking around and a lot of the sheriff complaining.
Just a minute. This is a waste of time. You know something? I haven't seen a spider yet, and I don't think we will.
You will if he's still there.
It'd be just our luck if he'd moved into the next county.
I don't think you'll be disappointed. There's something in here, all right.
So the sheriff sees a harmless bat, and of course he starts blasting away, killing it dead. I think the townspeople should rethink his employment next election time. This is one of those films where we, as the audience, knows what's going on and are just waiting for the characters to catch up. I think Carol found Daddy.
It's your father.
So the sheriff is finally convinced, and DDT is ordered, and I'm wondering how long that hose is. They kill the spider and the story's over. Of course it's not. The sheriff wants to blow up the cave's entrance, but the school teacher decides that science needs to study the spider. So, of course, they bring it to the high school.
I expect the university is going to want it for experiment and dissection. Frankly, I'll feel relieved when they come and take it off my hands.
Now Carol's at home, still crying over her deceased father, when she realizes that the bracelet that he bought her is still in the cave. She calls Mike. And we get a quick, cheap promo for a couple of Bert I. Gordon films.
Carol, not today. My dad just got in a new picture, and I haven't even seen it yet. Something about puppet people. It sounds pretty wild.
Please?
Back at school, a rock and roll band wants to rehearse, and the only place they can is in the gymnasium with the spider. They shouldn't be in there, but Fred Hugo the janitor, lets them in. The band starts rocking out, and kids come in to dance, and this is a nice break from all the terror that Bert has subjected us to. The youngsters love this music. Unfortunately, so does the spider. The kids run, they escape, but not so much for Hugo. Personally, I would have tried the door.
Sheriff's office, Cagle speaking. What?
You're not laughing now, are you, Sheriff? So Carol and Mike return to the cave to look for the bracelet. Meanwhile, the town is being terrorized by the giant spider. And I'm wondering, do spiders really growl like that? Just open the door! The attack is over, and look, on their wedding day. And doesn't that just break your heart? And what a coincidence. With all these homes in this community, the spider's heading for the Kingman home, and them with a new baby. Is it me, or does the spider keep changing size? Remember when it could crawl through school hallways? To make a long story short, Kingman leads the spider out into the desert. But of course, that's where Carol and Mike are. Now, in their defense, they don't know that the spider's come back from the dead.
Here it is. I guess you're happy now, huh?
Oh, I am, no kidding.
Good, then I guess we can go home.
They find the necklace, but unfortunately they get lost in the cave. And Mr. Eightlegs has come home. Meanwhile, back in town, the sheriff had sent Dave to get help, but Dave didn't quite make it. Why they brought the body back to the sheriff's office? Your guess is as good as mine. So they make a plan to blow up the cave's entrance. Hey, they don't know the kids are in there. But the kids are doing just fine even though they're lost because they have a candy bar. And sorry, Bert, but I just can't take that spider growling seriously. Carol's mom shows up at the cave because she knows the kids are in there, but she's a bit too late. Now they have to try to dig out the kids. Can they get the kids out before the spider gets them? The answer is yes. But before they do that, they need to deal with the spider. So they come up with another plan. They'll use electricity.
Shocking. Positively shocking.
How did they get all the power down there? I'm not sure, but who cares? The spider is dead and everybody's happy. We never do find out what caused the spider to grow so large. I mean, there has to be a reason, correct? Whatever it was, probably will make other bugs grow big as well, maybe other spiders.
Well, this time he's going to stay dead. Dead and buried.
Let's say at least until some egghead comes along and digs it up again.
One thing I'll have to give this movie is that the action is all connected to the spider. There's no subplots, there's no romance or conflict between characters or anything like that. There's no wanting to keep the beaches open, nothing. Now, the music for this film was done by Albert Glasser. Albert lived from 1916 to 1998. He was a composer who worked primarily in B films during the 40s through the 1960s, with over 200 films in his career. He did a lot of work for AIP and Bert I. Gordon. And I've got to admit, I love a good theremin in my science fiction or horror films. Some of the films he composed music for were 1948's The Cobra Strikes and Last of the Wild Horses, 1953's The Neanderthal Man, 1957's The Monster from Green Hell and The Beginning of the End, and in 1958, Giant from the Unknown, Teenage Caveman, and High School Confidential. He had many more besides the few I've listed. For today's obscure reference, we have this.
No, Dr. Earhart, no! So that's what happened to him. Wow.
Enjoy.
Okay, this really wasn't an obscure reference to Mystery Science Theater 3000 fans, is it? It's just that this character looked a little like J. Elvis Weinstein, who played Dr. Lawrence Earhart in the first season of the show, and we never find out why his character left. We know why J. Elvis left, but not his character. Anyway, the complete version of this movie was 73 minutes long, and Mystery Science Theater 3000 showed 68 minutes of it, so they cut out about 5 minutes, and I didn't take the time to figure out what 5 minutes they cut. But now, why don't we watch the best 2 minutes of that episode?
Earth Versus by Walt Whitman. No.
I'm putting my money on the spider.
Assistant Technical Effects. Honey, hand me that Tonka truck, would you?
Gora, great screenplay.
No spiders were squished, stepped on, flushed, or made to suffer any emotional distress during the making of this film. One spider did die of old age. We have 2 letters from doctors confirming this.
Now, what don't I know my butt from?
If the
Hole in
voltage
the
applied to
ground.
these electrodes isn't...
Okay, so maybe your dad just parked the truck down there and like vandal squirrels came in and ripped the door off and broke the windshield and stuff?
Could happen.
Maybe that's what it is.
Ooh, hi, Carol. Did you get my present?
They're in Michael Jackson's basement. Oh, well, see ya, Carol. I gotta go.
Hey, there's a time and place for that.
Run into that spider.
Well, I gotta squeeze through here. Watch out for your dad's head.
Carol, not today. My dad just got in a new picture, and I haven't even seen it yet. Something about puppet people. It sounds pretty wild.
Please. Shame on you, Bert I. Gordon.
Wait, aren't you going to watch that wonderful Bert I. Gordon movie?
Wait, fo to beep.
Wait, fo to beep. Nobody's home. Nobody's home.
I'll just be going then. I gotta get the groceries. Start. Come on, baby.
Door handle, honey.
Just
Open
you-
the door handle.
Everybody's afraid of these crane shots. Spider, 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 spider.
Industrial Light and Magic, you've done it again.
Carol, we hear you.
But we don't care.
Does that sound hollow or am I crazy?
Yes, and yes.
Hey, Carol, it's them.
Not them. Not the big ants.
They're coming for us. What did I tell you?
When in New Mexico, visit Carlsbad Caves. No bombs, we promise.
Oh, that's rich, huh?
Now, I hope many of you out there watched and enjoyed my incomplete biography of Faith DeMurg last week. I think I'm going to work on a longer version of her story. It's very interesting. I put as much as I could into 7 minutes, but there's a lot I didn't include, and a lot after she became a successful actress. So I think that'll be one of my longer documentaries down the road. Anyway, if you know somebody who would make a good subject for one of my 7-minute documentaries, I would like to hear about it. Let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. Right now I'm working on one for June Kenney, the young girl from this film, but I'm not quite sure I'm going to find enough information about her to do one. That's always the problem. I've started many and just found out I just can't find anything about the person. So anyway, next week I'll be talking about Mighty Jack, another Japanese TV show turned into a movie by the one and only Sandy Frank. I want to thank you for watching. Last week, 2 weeks ago's episode, It Conquered the World, was my most successful episode yet. I'm still not getting those huge numbers like many other shows on YouTube, but slowly but surely I'm growing. And if you have any comments, please leave them below. Comments really help, and I really enjoy getting comments. I might not get back to you right away, but I will get back to you. I answer each one. So now I want to tell you to take care, stay healthy, and join me next week with one of my mini bios, and in 2 weeks with another Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode. Take care. Bye. I'm not sure I want to do Mighty Jack, but bye. I have to do it, so goodbye.